What's going on, everybody? It's Corey from the Breakevens, and as always, I am here with Jack.
Hello.
So, welcome back to the Breakevens podcast. We're here doing our third team review out of four. Today, we will be going through GWS, the Hawks, Melbourne, North Melbourne, and Port Adelaide. Just before we get started, let's go through the socials. So you can find us on Twitter at BreakEvensPod, and you can find us on YouTube or Apple Podcasts. Search the Breakevens, and you'll see our channels there. All right. Also, just quickly before we start, I did my own special video last Saturday. So if you haven't seen that, that is a must watch. It's all around the magic number and what that means this year and how it could all possibly work out. So go check that on YouTube again. Search the Breakevens and you'll see our logo there. All right, Jack, you ready to hop straight into it, mate?
I am.
All right, well, we've got GWS up first. So who is your primo?
So my primo for the Orange team is Josh Kelly at 582.3k and an average of 105.8. Had a very good year until the Orange team decided to play him half forward the second half of the year. With Toronto and Hopper gone, I believe he's the number one man in the middle. He'll be in most centre bounces. And we've seen what Kelly can do when he's played most centre bounces. He's at averages of 117 in a season. Um, with consistent mid minutes, I can see him averaging 115 again. And last season, when he played midfield, we saw two scores over 150. So I think he's the best primo for the Orange team.
um, okay, yeah, I mean, he definitely will have a bump in role as long as Kingsley plays him in his position, unlike Harry Himmelberg, apparently. So, all right, yep. So I had Stephen Cornelio at 557k as a mid forward. To me, Jack, he's the only premium price player to pick for the Orange team. He was a great pick last year, starting at 261k and finished at 550, so almost made 300k last year. Early on in the first half, he didn't have the role under Leon Cameron, but AC, that's after Cameron, he averaged 110.8 over the last 10 games. There was one game he missed there, but that was all after the bye. So with Hopper and Taranto leaving, I think this cements his spot in the midfield. He might possibly play a little bit forward to maybe rest, but I think he's going to be majority midfield, and I think he will have the most CBAs for GWS. And I think going off the 110, he'll be easily top 3 or 4 in our forward lines this year. So if you can get him, I'd put him in. All right. All right, Jack. Best rookie.
I've gone with Brent Daniels.
Okay.
191.3k forward. Didn't play at all last year, so his price is obviously down. Previously, we've seen some very good scores by Mr. Brent Daniels with 84, 86, and 94. The problem with Daniels is every season he always seems to miss weeks with an injury. So it's a bit of a scary one. I'm going to compare him with Cornelio last year, not because of ability, but because it was a massive risk with Cornelio's injury, like consecutive injuries happening. So it's a bit of a worry there. But if Brent Daniels is fit and firing, I didn't really see many who could play round one, and Brent Daniels is like a lock for round one. He's in their best 22.
You reckon he's best 22? I reckon he might be on the outer just because of
Well,
young young
forward,
guys.
small forward. Bobby Hill's gone straight in.
Okay. All right. Well, I've gone for a non-playing rookie, Jack. I've gone
You
for
gone that Nick Madden bloke.
Nicholas Madden, 102k ruck forward, and this is purely just a loophole pick. Um, Cadman looks like the only rookie to get a go this year, but he's a key forward. Madden has DPP, and he can be a flexible option when or if a Gorn, a Darcy, or even a Grundy get DPP in that forward lines. So his basement price, flexibility. If you're looking for a loophole, GWS have a lot of Sundays, so I'd put him in. All right, mid pricer slash breakout. Who you got?
I've gone with a bloke by the name of Finn Callahan.
Oh,
244k midfielder, average of a 55.4 last year. He's a big body mid. He showed in small packages in his 5 games last year the skill he has. Last year he did have a score of 76, but I can see a spot in the midfield opening up with the obvious departures that we talk about every week with the Orange team. I think he's a cheeky, cheap option. I almost started with the C's there. Mainly to make some bank. I can see if he gets a consistent mid roll, he can average around 80. And with his price average of a 44.3, we're getting him cheap because the 11 difference, and he needs an average of 79 to make 150k, and that's just around where I see him averaging. So that gets him up and around 400k, which is a big upgrade to one of the big boys like Josh Kelly. But yeah, so I reckon Finn Callahan, he's going to have a jump in his scores, and he'll be around that 80 mark.
yep, I was big on him early in pre-season when the team picker first came out. I was big on him, but I do see him playing. But if you've got Tom Green, Canelio, and Kelly, if they're getting bulk minutes, he's not going to get too
I
many.
don't
So,
think not Kelly, Canelio gets bulk minutes in midfield. I think he
right,
does
no,
what he did last year.
he definitely gets
I I
bulk
don't see
midfield.
him risking it with his injury past. They seen last year how it works with him 50-50. I can see him keeping that
Yeah,
with
but
Canelio.
that was with two extra midfielders. They're two midfielders down, and he's their best apart from Whitfield, skill wise, he's their best kick that can go through that midfield. So
We'll just have to see what Kingsley does, but I don't think
yes,
he gets as big midfield as everyone's raving.
okay. Well, my breakout on mid pricer is Tom Green. I've gone pretty safe here. 534k mid. The contested bull is looking to break out this year with Trento and Hopper leaving. He's the only contested beast I see at the Giants. He went absolutely nuts for the first 7 rounds last year, and then he cooled down a little bit going into the buys. Late last season, we saw his scores drop drastically, but looking at his heat maps in those games, he was pushed to a half back, a half forward, and a wing. So he was moved around a bit after Cameron, it seems. We don't know why this is, but my best prediction is that his tank was out of gas, seeing that he's still trying to develop that tank. But he's got another season down and a full preseason so far. I think this is his year where he goes 110 plus, and he'll be a good M7, possibly M8 for our sides. Um, all right, mate. Who's your avoid and trap?
Well, like I said in Team Preview 1, it feels like the Brody Smith of the Orange team, and it's Lockie Whitfield. 473.8k, an average of 86.1, had a very poor season. He had a high score of 125, but he also had a low score of a 43. And he only scored over 104 times. And this year, he's just a set up plain midfielder. I see him as, like last year, a huge trap.
Yep, I think that the fact that he doesn't have a DPP hurts him. But from all that I can hear is he's back on that half back role, which is where he averaged those 110, 115. So I think there is merit, but it is very risky because he just seems to get injured in weird ways, and we don't exactly know what his role is going to be. So I can agree with you there, but I've been on that half back. He might tempt some people, but I guess that's why you have him in a trap. So, um, all right, mine's Harry Himmelberg, 499k defender forward. Now, I want to emphasize this is an avoid for now, only because we are unsure on what his role will be come the start of the season.
Well, we've got some idea.
We keep hearing if Cadman's not ready, he'll be forward, but then we're also hearing that he should be okay, so he's most likely playing back. We're just playing tennis here between forward and defense. Um, the the thing that interests me is that yes, he isn't guaranteed to. He still isn't guaranteed to play forward if Cadman isn't playing. Just because I think they have Jesse Hogan up there, they have Riccardi who who's another bigger sized guy, and they have a potential to have a resting ruck down there. I think that's what people are forgetting a little bit is you're going to have Bruce and Flynn most likely in the same team. So one of them will rest forward, and then you have a Hogan and a Riccardi, or if Cadman's playing, he's up there, and probably Riccardi gets moved to a different position or dropped. So I think he still starts the season back, but we just don't have any clarification at the moment, which is really annoying. But again, AC after Cameron left, Harry went insane. He had a high score of 187 and a low of 74 in that time, which shows he's got a decent floor, but he's got a massive ceiling. If he has that intercepting role, he's a must select at his price. And if he keeps that role all season, he'll be a top six defender by season's end. So just keep an eye on his role and whatever the coaches say, even though that they're bloody confusing at the moment. All right, Jack, under the radar. I'm interested to see who you've put here.
I've put the cum dog, Isaac Cumming, at 521.2k, an average of 94.7, was a little inconsistent last year and had a low score of 45. But with only 1% of ownership and 6 scores over 110 and 9 scores reaching at least 100 mark, he's a cheeky pod choice in your defense, and he showed that he averaged 94 with a low score of 45, which shows even though it was a little inconsistent getting a score like that, he still produces majority high scores. And with one, like I said, 1% ownership, he's a very cheeky pod choice in my opinion.
Yep, so I've been coming as well for my under the radar. So as you said, 521k defender. He's someone who each year has improved and increased his average each time. He's nailed on for kick-ins. He took 129 kick-ins last year, and he played on from 116 of them, which is at a percentage of 90, which is, if you think 116 free touches right there. He loves to kick the ball with a 3.26 kick the handball ratio. So for those who don't know, what that means is for every handball he makes, there's 3 kicks ahead of that. One thing I did notice though is there's a slight drop in his disposal efficiency. He went at a 77 last year, which isn't too bad, but we have seen 80 plus from him in previous years. So if he works on that and gets back on track to those 80 plus, I think I can definitely see him go 100. Is that top six this year? Probably not, but he has the potential to do anything. So, yep, awesome. GWS done and dusted. We'll move on to the Hawks, and I think there's only one primo. Would you agree, Jack?
Yeah. James Sicily
That's it.
at 624.7k, an average of 113.5. All I really need to say is he's the highest priced defender for a reason. Um, it's not because he's shit. It's because he's good, and it's because he's very consistent with his scoring. That's all I really need to say about James Sicily. Everyone knows what he does.
Yep. And Jackie's second most expensive defender.
Is he?
Yep. There's Sinclair, who's like 2K
Oh,
more
fuck
expensive.
Sinclair. He's irrelevant.
Yeah, so I went Sicily as well, as Jack said, 624k defender. The sick dog averaged 113, one of the most consistent defenders last year. Another kicking stat, he took 69 kick ins and he played on from 66 of them. And he averaged 8.6 marks a game, which is where he scores the bulk of his points. Again, like Cumming, he loves to kick the ball. And last year he showed us that he has the role cemented, and we don't have to worry about Mitchell chucking him forward. That's what we're all worried about last year was will Sicily play forward? I'm pretty sure he did for one game, but I think that's because all their full forwards were injured. So like, well, we have no other choice. Um, Top four easy this season. I think he's slightly overpriced, but I can't hate anyone for picking him because he's got to score big points. So easy. Who's your rookie?
My rookie is a bloke that goes by the name of Cam McKenzie. 180.3k and was pick 7 in this year's draft. A big talking point out of that, we have the Will Ashcross and all the big name players. All the scouts rated him the most reliable ball winner out of the crop.
Okay.
And that's with a man who averaged 35 touches in the same league last year in Will Ashcroft. So
Yep.
that's some very high praise. Apparently he's very poised on the ball, and he was labeled as a ready to go prospect, which sounds like he will get games this year. He's ready to play. He's not someone that they have to train and build up. He's ready to go straight in. So that's why I've gone with my boy Cam McKenzie.
Yep. He's someone who I've definitely thought about starting, but I've at the moment I've got Ashcroft ahead of him.
He seems a
Um,
bit like Josh Ward last year. That same price, Hawthorn, young midfielder.
Hopefully he starts a bit better than what Josh Ward did, though.
Hopefully he can hit a target.
Yeah. I went with Josh Weddle, 130k defender. He's said to be a well-rounded athlete and a defender capable of intercepting, rebounding, and locking down opponents. He's a great intercept mark and has versatility to go into the midfield as well. He does need to work on his composure though, so he might turn the ball over here and there. From all reports out of Hawthorn, he's tearing it up and making a name for himself to be there round one. If he's selected round one, he's a must have in your defenses. Let's see, Jack, your breakout mid price. I think we might have the same person here.
I mean, there's only one name in the Hawthorn Football Club that fits this bill for me. It is the breakout king, Jai Newcomb. 478.2k and had an average of 86.9, which was double his average in 2021. Double. And he had 6 scores over 100 last season, mostly at the start of the year. So it was a bit like Tom Green, I guess you can say, slowed down towards the end of the year. Um, Looking like the best of the mids in the Hawthorn Football Club. And it looks like they're building around him with that midfield group. That it looks like they've gone to him. You're the man. It's all about you. And he just like Sam Mitchell said, he's my king. Um, I can see another improvement in his scores, and I can see him pushing up to that 100 to 105 average of this year, which would make him for a second year a breakout.
Yep. Yep, I've got Newcomb as well, 478k mid. He had an insane 2022. He played all 22, which is good in that mid role permanently. As Jack said, he boosted his average by a massive 41 points. It wasn't the most consistent year last year though, but we have seen he has the potential to hit scores of 120 plus. With Mitchell and Amira out this year, it says he's number one and has the potential to go 100, 105. Best scenario, I feel. I personally think, though, there are better options if you go a bit cheaper at Sheed or Hopper, who I think can have the same scoring output um, than him, and they're 100k cheaper. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on how he goes, but I think he's going to have a very big year this year. Um, all right, mate. Who's your avoid and trap?
Now I'm gonna say it hurt me to put this name here. A tear did come down. My king, CJ Jaff. 427.5k and averaged 77.5 last year, which was a downgrade of 7 supercoach points on his average the year prior. I can see him being a viable defender who's going to score around that 85 to 90, but I can't see him improving, which that sets him around where he averaged 2 years ago now, technically. He's not someone that I can see averaging 90 plus, so I would just straight avoid.
Yep. And I think he's going to have his games where he dashes out of the halfback, but I think all the points there are going to go to Sicily, unfortunately. Um, all right, mate, you're going to hate my avoid and trap. He was also your forward king last year. Dylan Moore, 521k forward. Someone who came out of nowhere last season and went 18 points higher on 2021 as he went at an average of 94. He seemed to always pop up for a goal, but that was only in the first half, as we know, Jack. And he had some big scores of 147, 135, and 124. All of these were his high possession games of 33, 25, and 25. And they were also high marking games where he had 11, 7, and 7, respectively. I don't see him repeating what he did last year in those big games to be a successful pick, but he is a big chance for some more mid minutes. So there is a chance that he could be a bit more consistent this year. But as we know, with these small forwards, sometimes more CBAs does not mean more points. And also to note, he has a low floor of 56. So he's got the high highs of 147, but the low lows of 56. For me, he's a no, thank you. Sorry, Jack. And who's your under the radar, mate?
Dylan Moore!
Surely not.
Yeah, it is. An average of 94.6 last year, like you said, was a little inconsistent, but he had a jump of 18 supercoach. Um, like you said, he's a first half specialist. Always managed to kick two free goals in the first half, but then in the second half he died down a little bit. With Mitchell and O'Meara going, I can see him getting more minutes in midfield, like you said, and he showed towards the middle and end of year. I think he pushed up to a wing for a bit, and he was getting 20 touches for fun and kicking his goals. I can just see that boosting his score, and I think he's like everyone I'm seeing is saying avoid Dylan Moore because he's at Hawthorn. That's not a legitimate reason. He was at Hawthorn and he was one of the top averaging forwards last season. Why is it because he's at Hawthorn this year that changes? You're wrong. He's going to be one of the pods this year that everyone will be picking up, and he'll be one of the few players that averages over 100 by season's end. My king, Dylan
Big
Moore.
call. Big call. Yeah, I just don't think he'll do that. I think he can definitely go 90 to 95, though.
Well,
Um,
people who say something like that make sense, but I legit watched a video that went for 50 minutes and they said one thing about Dylan Moore and it was don't pick him, he plays for Hawthorn. Like, I'm sorry, that's not a reason. You're stupid. You're gone.
Jesus. My under the radar is Connor McDonald, 279k forward. He averaged 48 in his first season. He's a hard running midfielder at heart. He played a bit all over the ground and couldn't really find some continuity. He went at 67% disposal efficiency as well, which isn't great and something he definitely needs to work on. And he did improve that later in the year. And he also improved his tackles. So it just looks like he worked his way into the year, started a bit slower, and then just gradually got momentum and confidence. He's impressing early in pre-season, and he's one of 20, it seems, fighting for a midfield position. If that's CBA's, I doubt it. It's probably more of a wing role. At 279k, he could be a great cheaper mid-price pod if he gets that inside midfield role. So just keep an eye on Connor McDonald there. Alrighty, Jack, we'll go to Melbourne.
Yep.
Who's your primo?
I think there's only one option here, like with Hawthorn, and that is Tom McDonald. Clayton Oliver at 699.8k, average of 127.1, aka Mr. Consistent. I can see him continuing to be Clary and average around the same. He's just a certified captain, vice captain pick every week. Yeah, it's be pretty stupid if you don't have either him or Laird, but I think he's the better pick of the two because he's in a better team and averages the same and he's a little cheaper.
Yep. I went Clary as well. The Super Coach Pig is at it again. He keeps going up and up and up. He finished last year at 127.1 with a high score of 178, and he only had one score under 85, and that was a 68. And he actually scored that because he played on a wing mostly, so I don't think that really counts.
Didn't he also have a dislocated finger?
Yes, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he still scored like 90 on that game. Um, we know what we're going to get. We're going to get those contested possessions, and a lot of them. He's going to tackle. He hits the scoreboard here and there, and he loves Adelaide Oval. He goes 200, well, almost 200 there each year. So make sure you have him for those games. He's an absolute lock to me. Clary Oliver, I think he's a must start. Okay, Jack, who's your rookie?
Rookie, I struggled with a little, but I did a little bit of research, and
I hope so.
there's a guy. It's one of the first times I've done some research. I usually just go off the top of my head, which usually works. But I'm gonna butcher this name, and his name's Jacob Van Ruin
The Van der
or,
Ruin, yep.
or Ruyen, whatever it is. 123.9k. Like I said, I don't know much about him, but I've read some reports, and every single one I'm reading is he's a big chance for round one. And when I say big chance for round one with a name, I'm like, I like this guy. He's got the name for it as well. No one will be able to pronounce it right. I can't wait for BT to try and say his name. That will be some comedy. That. But from hearing he's a big chance to play round one, he had to be my choice.
Yep, I've gone to Jacob Van der Ruin as well, 123k forward. Melbourne aren't usually a team you think about for rookies, but Van der Ruin looks to get a chance with Sam Wiedemann leaving the club. So there's a key forward position there. He won't be a massive scorer in Supercoach just because he's a key forward. He still has a few years to develop, but the way I see it is 123k. He's going to be playing, and that's what we want. We want rookies that are going to play, who have a higher job security, and he'll unfortunately be a slow burner. He'll take his time, but all we need is one decent game, and that will spark his cash gen. So all right, who's your breakout or mid pricer?
Well, I was speaking to you last night. I'm like, this is very hard. And I said there was one reason why I didn't want to pick this person, but that is going to be mentioned as well. So my pick is Christian Salem at 390.4k, average is 70.9. My problem with him is when he plays, he can easily score 90s for fun, even hundreds. But only played 11 games last year, which is very scary, and he's not really played a full season in the last 2, 3 years. So his injury cloud is frightening. I didn't really see anyone else with Melbourne as a mid-price at a pick. That's why I'm going him. I've chosen him, but I'm not selecting him in my team because I'm way too scared with his injury crisis that happens every year.
Yep. Oh, I went Salem as well. So as Jack said, 390k defender, averages 70.9. He did come back from a long-term injury. He has the potential to score points, as in 2021 he went at an average of 94.5 with a massive 167 in that season. He's a crafty user of the ball and provides that run off half back. He started to show glimpses late last season with scores of 97 and 90. He probably has the potential to make you around 100k, which would get him close to that 500k mark. Um, and then it's an easy upgrade. But I think his scoring potential is very dependent on how they play Jack Bowie and Angus Brayshaw and what their roles are in the team and how they're utilised. The way I see it, Elliot Yeo is cheaper and has potential to go 100. So it's a no for now, but watch Salem pre-season. Who's your avoid and trap, mate?
Well, this is my one of two big boy traps, and he goes by the name of Christian Petrarca.
That's rough.
618.6k, and he averaged 112.4. Now, you're there, like Corey is like, this is a strange one. What the hell are you thinking? This is my thought process.
What's what I'm thinking.
He's got players around the same price who average more and have more of an impact on the team, and people lower who can have the same average, if not a bigger ceiling, with the likes of Tom Mitchell. For me, for Petrarca to be a relevant pick, sadly, he's going to need a DPP in the forward line where he will excel. Sadly, with the midfielders, he's too inconsistent. And yes, he gets the average of 112 last year, but he had big scores of 160s, 170s. Then he had too many low scores of the 70s and 80s and the 60s where he just can't get into the game. So, yeah, you're seeing a year average of 112. But I know myself in my draft team last year, one week he'd score 150. I'm like, yes, get around him, my king. Then the next week he'd score a 50 and lose me the game. And I'm like, where's this come from? So my avoid is Christian Petrarca for that reason. If he can find his DPP forward from a couple of years ago, because we know he rests forward, he is the must get player. But if he's keeping the same role and he rested forward last year and didn't get it, I can't see him getting it this year. But as a plain midfielder, he is an avoid for me. Just too inconsistent.
Yep. One thing to note last season though, he did play through some injuries, so that's why and where the inconsistency came from. I don't mind your reasoning there, especially with DPP, and the players around him. So you made some really good points there. I know I'm not going to start him because of that. So yep, mine is Max Gorn. 622k ruckman. How on earth is Max Gorn a trap? It's just the unknown on what his role will actually be. We know he's one of the best rucks in the comp. He marks the ball, he hits the scoreboard, he has elite midfielders to tap down to. But I think this year he plays a second ruck role with the inclusion of Grundy. I did hear today that they're looking to share 50-50, but I'm not sure if that will be it. He might start in the forward line sometimes. He might start in the back line. Who knows what's going to happen? Everyone thinks it's a simple 50-50 split, but as I just said, Max Gorn can play both sides of the ball, and Grundy is more of that follow-up ruckman. Bit more like that Luke Jackson type, which means they'll complement each other very well. So just keep an eye on their roles and just go from there. All right, Jack, you're under the radar.
My under the radar is, yes, it's Hamish's other brother, Angus. 550.3k, averaged 100 on the dot. Only in 8% of teams. We know what Angus Brayshaw does on that halfback flank. He's very reliable, gets plenty of the ball, and he's good using it. No one's really talking about him. Like I said, only in 8% of teams. He's a cheeky pod for me. Like I said, that no one's talking about or giving any thought to. That's why Angus Brayshaw is my under the radar pick.
Yep, I've gone Angus Brayshaw as well, as you said, 550k defender. Everyone forgets that this guy almost won a Brownlow in a year where he played predominantly as a midfielder. The last few seasons, he's found himself in the halfback, maybe pushing up on a wing. But late last year, he was put back in that midfield, and we saw the ball come back with a stretch of games going 122, 123, 113, and 113. And he's looking to have kept that role so far this preseason. So he has the potential to go 130 pluses, and he's a consistent scorer with that role. He scored a flat 100 last year, and I can see him pushing 105, 110 this year if he solidifies himself that midfield role all season. Alrighty, that is Melbourne done. So, Jack, we'll move on to North Melbourne. Who's your best primo for the Mighty Roos?
A man that I talked a lot of shit on last year. Now, you'd know this because we had arguments and I was right because I'm never wrong no matter what the stats
Nah,
say.
you're fucking wrong.
I'm
You're
right, I'm
massively
always
wrong.
right. And so obviously my primo is Hugh Greenwood. No, it's LDU, or as he's known as Luke Davies Uniac, at 557.4k, an average of 101.2. He had a breakout last season, which I definitely did not see coming. So good on him. Um, and with Clarkson taking over him in his development now, I can see his game improving immensely over this preseason and this season. And he'll be taking it to that next level as a big boy mid. I can see him pushing up to 110 to 115 this year. Um, Obviously has shit around him, and you can't polish it and make it good. So that might impact him a little bit, but yeah, LDU is my primo.
Yep. So just a bit of context. Last season, Jack thought Hugh Greenwood would outscore LDU, and
Absolutely did.
I thought vice versa. So we made it just a small gentleman's bet, just to see, and I obviously came out on top. So sucked in Jack. Um,
Nah, you're wrong. I came out on top.
I went LDU as well, 557k as a midfielder. He went huge in the back end of last year, and um, that's when he got a majority of CBAs. So in that back end, after the buys, his lowest game of CBAs was 71%, which is more than what most midfielders get anyway. So he's clearly the number one midfielder and is a get the ball and run through blokes just to get out of the contest. He loves to tackle and has serious potential to break out and go, as Jack said, 110, 115. I agree with you on that. I think out of all the mid prices in the midfield, he has the highest chance to go big. Um, but unfortunately, I can't afford him in my side at the moment. My only worry is with Cunnington back, how will that affect LDU? How many mid minutes will Cunnington get? What I'm hearing is he is playing in the midfield, Cunnington. So it's a wait and see on that. Just keep an eye on it, but is looking like a great selection this year.
Honestly, is there anyone else with North Melbourne today that we can vie putting in that spot? Because I don't see any. I
Uh,
don't think there's anyone else.
no. Um, who's your best rookie, mate?
A man that's in my team, and you know him well, Will Phillips, 158k. Didn't play a game last year, but we can see he's been doing very well on the track in preseason. Can see him playing this year and playing a lot of games. And at his price, he looks to be a must-have. player in your teams, especially with that experience. Even though he missed last year, but the extra year before in the system also helps.
Yep, I went Will Phillips as well, 158k mid. He went 41.9 in his rookie year in 2021. Unfortunately, he got glandular fever twice last year, which just saw him out for the whole season. He's an enormous talent and he's looking fit and strong this preseason. He's basically a lock if he plays round one at 158k. All he needs to do is average 63 to make 150k. And I think he can go 70, 75 quite easily. So put him in and keep him there. Do not move him from your side. Jack, we've gone two of the same here for North Melbourne. So let's see if we go a third. Who's your breakout or slash mid pricer?
Taron Thomas, 295.7k, average 53 last year, which was a very troubled year for him. He struggled for form and struggled a lot mentally. It's not easy coming around playing. Last season, I was having a few laughs because I'm pretty sure he outdid Aidan Bonner in one game with the lowest score, Supercoach score for North Melbourne. But at 295.7k, with reports of him in preseason training off the halfback and killing it, he looks like a good sweep, grab, whatever you want to call it, chicken on a stick. Get him in.
Chicken on the stick. Chicken on the stick. I love it. I love it. All right, well, you wouldn't believe it, Jack, but I went Taron Thomas as well at 295k as a mid forward. Yep, that's right, Taron Thomas, the problem child of Arden Street. He seems to find himself in trouble a fair bit. And if he isn't playing in the midfield, he seems to crack the shits a lot. But with Clarko there, he seems to be pointing him in the right direction. Uh, he has looked great running off that halfback, and he's one of their, if not their best user of the football. And as we know, the halfback role is Supercoach Gold, and that's where most of our value selections come from. If he can pull his head in and play that role, he has the potential to go 85, which is what he did back in 2021. Or even better, he could even push 90. So he's someone I'm really looking at to see if I can fit him in. But he has a few court cases coming up, so if he loses them, there could be some suspensions from the club. So just keep an eye on his court cases. Um, but if he's playing round one, I think he's a great selection.
Do you think he's a chicken on a stick?
He's a chicken on a stick, mate.
I
Uh,
like it.
all right, we're 3 from 3. Can we go 4 from 4? Who's your avoid and trap?
I I don't think so. I really wanted to put Jai Simkin there,
Oh no,
but
you fucked it.
I've gone someone else, and this is another. I guess two of my three controversial picks that I said I had before we
Okay,
started.
okay.
My king, my reliable ruckman for the last, besides last year, my last maybe 8 seasons odd. He was always my number one in. Todd Goldie Locks Goldstein at
Oh,
513.3k, average of 93.2, but he didn't seem to have the role last year. He played majority forward with the surgence of the Cherry Bomb, who I was fond of his rookie year, even though I had no clue who he was, and the Richmond Colt hero who helped Stack win the stripper straight fight, Callum Coleman Jones. I don't see Goldie getting that majority mid, which allows him to score his 105 to 110 average. And looking at price, for practically the same price, I'd prefer going a Brody Grundy over him.
or even a Rowan Marshall for 7k cheaper.
Exactly.
Yeah, last year we sort of knew that he was going to lose that number one ruck. He
And
did
we
keep
can't
it.
forget he's getting a lot older as well.
Yes, and he did keep it in patches because of all their injuries. But yep, um, I'm shattered because I went Jai Simpkin at 500k midfielder. He went 97 in 2021, and people looked at him to kick on and break out last year. I was one of them. I didn't start him, but I thought he had the potential. He started out okayish last season. He had a stinky 37 in there, and
Hayden Bonner.
he came home strong, scoring a big 26 in round 19. This kid has potential to go 100 to 110, but he hasn't showed us he can do it on a consistent basis throughout any year. I think with the emergence of LDU makes him the number two, and I don't see him being that player that we expected he could be 2 years ago. So stay away, as Jack said earlier. If it's not LDU and it's not a rookie, then you just can't go near him. But who's your under the radar, mate?
My under the radar is a man I think 90% of people had before the season last year, and based off his form before, and everyone had him the year before. And his name is Aaron Hall.
Okay.
Average at 537.6k, averaged 97.8 in 11 games in an injury plagued year. He only played the 11 games, had done his hamstring about 6 to 8 times, and whatever else he can muster up. Um, at his price, we know he's a bargain, and we know that he can easily produce at 105 to 110 average. The only problem with Aaron Hall is that he's a mate. Like his ball skills is amazing. I'd say he's the best use by foot in the club. He produces consistent scores, but his main skill is his running, and his main weakness is his running. So it's a bit of a problem. Maybe if he came out running like Sam Newman in that 100-meter sprint, he might have some good hamstrings on him. But if he, in all honesty, and jokes aside, if Aaron Hall can stay fit, he's a massive bargain, and he's the only other North Melbourne player you can vie picking. Obviously, the big risk is his hamstrings do not exist. So it's a be wary, but you know what risk you're getting into, like the last couple of years with Aaron Hall.
Well, mate, I'm about to give you some information that's gonna say your Aaron Hall under the radar is not it. All right. So my under the radar is Luke McDonald at 487k as a defender. Similar to Simpkin, McDonald has the potential to go 100 plus, and he has shown with scores of 140, 132, and 127 last year, but his game is heavily affected by those around him, like the players of Aaron Hall and Jack Zeeble in recent years, where they've been the main extractors, and Hall especially has been the big runner out of defence. It's only been the games where the Halls and the Zeebles have been injured, which can happen a lot. That's where we start to see McDonald get a rise in his scoring potential. Now, here's the news, Jack. I've heard a few rumours this year that Aaron Hall may not be best 22 under Clarko due to his age. Clarko's seen him as a weak spot because he's not a very defensive minded player. And it looks like Clarko wants to get those games into the younger guys like your Phillips, your Goders, your Wardlaws, your Sheasels, your Tom Powells. So if that is true, I think McDonald has a chance to bump up his average to a 95 100, but you have to wait and see. That's all speculation. So sorry about that, Jack.
Well, I've seen some speculation that has Jack Zabel playing defense this year.
Yes, I have also seen
He's
that
not
as
going to
well.
play forward like last year. He's going back into defense. And if you're playing Jack fucking Zabel in defense, you need someone who can run and cover the bloke because the bloke can't move. And that's all Aaron Hall can do is move.
All right, mate. We'll finish off with Port Adelaide. So who's your primo?
My primo, I did want to go a Bogan or Wines, but I don't see them being relevant like
Yep.
Petrarca. I feel like me picking one of them is negating my choice of Petrarca as an avoid. So I have gone with the very energetic, hyperactive Connor Rosie at 513.8k, an average of 93.3, which saw a 20 Supercoach jump from the prior year. Played a lot through the midfield last year and showed he can go huge with a cut with 250 plus scores and one 160 plus score. But he did have Aidan Bonner scores of a 25, 46, and 48. If he can be more consistent and take Aidan Bonner out of his soul, he could be the Dunkley of our forward lines at being the top averaging forward and the high scoring gun that we know Rosie can be.
Yep, I've gone Rosie as well. So 513k mid forward. Just before I start what I've written down for him, just know you're going to hear the word CBAs a lot. So hopefully it doesn't confuse people too much. But he had his best year last year with a 93 average, which is 20 points higher than what he did in 2021. At the start of the season, he started off playing in the forward line, which we saw very low scores and a very slow start to the season. But then he started to get some midfield time, and that those words CBAs. As Jack said, he went big. He scored 153, and he scored that with 73% CBAs. He scored 154 from 61% CBAs, and he finished the year off in the last round with 162 from only 56% CBAs. So what I am seeing here is he doesn't need 70 plus percent of CBAs to score points. All he needs is to get the ball, get the chance in the midfield, get the ball, then he can work around the ground. He's a good runner. He likes to spread. He likes to get the ball back. He likes to push forward. He likes to get on the scoreboard. He likes to hit it. We know he's a great mark. So if he's in that forward line, I'd back him in to take that big mark over a pack or a one-on-one. The only knock on Rosie is what are they going to do with Zach Butters, who also should get some a bump in CBAs? Does he take some mid time from him? But as I said, Rosie does not need a whole bunch to score well. He's someone I'm definitely looking at for my starting team, and someone you should too. I put a poll up today, being Tuesday, said uh, who would you rather? No, sorry. Who presents more value, Stephen Cornelio or Connor Rosie? So go to our Twitter. It'll be pinned to our profile. So vote there. It's up for 2 days because I'm interested to see what everyone thinks. All right, that was a lot of CBA talk. So Jack, who's your best rookie?
Just before I go into that, you just solved the Supercoach mystery.
Have
You
I?
said Connor Rosie likes to get the ball. Every AFL player likes to get the ball, but players like Aidan Bonner just can't get it.
Or when they do, they miss the target.
Yes. Now, onto my rookie, I've gone the man, the myth, the legend, the man of 100 different bloody jobs. Johnny Sins himself, 123k. Played one game and scored 24, and he either started as the sub or got subbed out. So it's not great for Johnny himself. But from all reports, he's looking as fit as ever, and he's got a spot for round one if he can take it on the wing. He looks like a stick on a chicken and a muskrat.
Yeah, well, I've gone Johnny Sins as well, 123k mid forward. He's back from a big off season of delivering pizzas, being a doctor, being a firefighter. He's back.
Being an
As
astronaut.
as Jack said, he only played one game last year. That was a 24, and I'm pretty sure it was an injury affected game. Now, this kid has potential. He's a known runner. He loves to kick the ball, and he has a trusty left foot that can go 60 meters with ease. I think there's a spot on the wing for him with Carl Amon going to Hawthorn. The only knock on him is that at the moment he hasn't fully started back training. He's doing more running work and he's trying to build up and prep himself for round one. Which, yes, it is concerning, but if he can stay fit and if he's selected for round one, he's an easy selection in our sides.
So what you're saying, he's looking to build up and explode, eh?
Yep, classic Johnny. All right, mate, who's your breakout and mid pricer?
I'm going a very interesting pick.
Okay.
I'm going Mr. LaMelo Ball himself, the Hornet, Jason Horn-Francis.
Oh.
348.8k, average of 63.4, has gained forward status, and he showed last season at North, while not happy, he never liked being in Melbourne. He showed that the skill that he has and that he can score big scores, 95 to 100, which is big for a forward. With a trade back home to Adelaide, you can see he's happier than ever. He's given Cam Zerhard a two-finger salute, and he's loving life. What I can see with Horn Francis is, with a better attitude, becomes a better success. I guess you can is the word, like more improvement. The happier you are, the better you perform. Just ask Johnny Sins. And with what we've seen he can do at North Melbourne, at Port Adelaide, we know he's going to get some centre bounces. You got Wines, Boak, who are both close to 80, 90 years old each. We can, especially with a Boak who's shown he can play well forward, I can probably see Boak taking that less of a role, sitting more forward, allowing the young Jason Horn-Francis to come in. And with his second year on a list, he's going to get better physically and uh, with his awareness and his ball skills, which comes with experience. But with being at Adelaide, being home, being happy, you can just see better results coming. That's why I've gone the Hornet himself, Jason Horn-Francis.
Yep, fair, fair, and he's looking to get more mid time than what he did at North Melbourne. Um, but again, how much does Butters and Rosie take up there? Because we know Ollie Wines can't play anywhere but in the midfield, so he'll definitely get a rotation in there at some point. My breakout mid price is someone who I thought you were going to go, Jack, because you love a cheapy ruckman. But I've gone Scott Lycett, 429k ruck. He has the potential to score points. When he plays, he's clearly the number one, and he pushes forward and hits the scoreboard. The only problem he has, apart from his putrid mustache, is
Johnny Sins likes it.
is he loves an injury. Hence, he only played 4 games last year.
Yeah, he
He,
did an ACL.
yes, he averaged 101 in 2019 and 96 and 94 in 2020 and 21. If Lycett is fit, he could be the mid-pricer in our rucks we are looking for, but beware and cautioned he might only play a handful of games, which we only need him to play 8 games at the start of the season, and then we can get rid of him for a big dog. So Scott Lycett is someone I'm looking at if Tim English isn't looking serviceable, because he had adductor soreness that is lingering. So, all right, mate, who's your avoid and trap?
So this is, you know how I said I had three big calls? This is
Yep.
my third one.
Okay.
And it is the South Park star himself, Butters, with the first
Oh.
name of Zachary.
Oh, okay.
529.4k, an average of 96.2. You're there going, Jack, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yep.
But like Christian Petrarca, started the season very slow. He had 4 scores inside the 50s. Fucking 50s. And he had injuries last year. He missed weeks, right? Unlike Rosie, who's fit and plays a whole year, he has injuries. I also don't think he has the ceiling of a Rosie,
No.
height wise, as Rosie has 150s, 160s, but Butters, even though he's a little blonde boy that no one likes, has 130s, 140s. So there's a 20-point difference there. Um, he's way too inconsistent, like me and everyone who started him last year, who was like, "This is his big year," and he fucked us. He bent us over in Johnny Cinders, right? He was not great at all. So he's an avoid for me. Like I'm not going anywhere near him, but I think he's an avoid for everyone. I can't see him being consistent. I can see him scoring his 50s. I can see him missing games. And to be honest, I think for it's 15, 16K cheaper. I'd prefer to go Connor Rosie any day of the week over him.
The one thing I don't agree with is your ceiling comment. It was 2021. He was on 100 at halftime and he got injured. He got injured like 5 minutes before halftime. He was on 100. He finished the game at an 80 because he didn't play the second half, so they took points away. He was on track for 200 Supercoach points. He has the potential to score high.
Who scored more points that game? I believe it was Connor Rosie.
Yeah, he played 4 fucking quarters.
But that just goes in with my point that Butters, when he's on fire, he gets injured.
Yeah,
We
but
can't be having a forward who gets injured.
most of the forwards get bloody injured. Look, I totally agree with that. He does get injured or small niggles that he plays through, which can affect his scoring. But maybe this year is one of those years where he plays all 22 and he comes out and averages 110.
I mean, it could, but I wouldn't risk it. Like I said,
Oh
first
yeah,
4 weeks he scored in the 50s. Like,
yeah.
we don't want that.
He's
It's an avoid. It's a
he
trap.
he's
Anyone can go and average 110 if they want to, but we know that they're not going to.
Aiden Bonner can't.
He can if he puts his mind to it, but we know he won't.
Negative 110. All right.
I just Rosie just seems the better pick, more
Yeah,
healthy, and
I agree. I totally agree with that. All right, my avoidance trap is Ollie Wines, 580k mid. I still can't believe this bloke won a Brownlow. Like,
I mean, I can. He averaged like 33 disposals for the year.
like, don't get me wrong. He can play football and he has the biggest jawline in the world. But in a Supercoach sense, yes, he's averaged 112 before, but before that, his next best have been 105 and 104, and that's not the sort of scores we're looking for in our midfields. He's still getting plenty of CBAs. He's getting plenty of the ball, but he goes at 68% disposal efficiency and 4 clangers a game. His scoreboard impact was low last year, lower than the last few. He also is more prone to handballing rather than kicking the ball, which is not ideal, which means he's losing or not maximising his points. It's a big no for me. Stay away from Mr. Ollie Wines.
Ollie Wines is an AFL footballer, not a super coach footballer.
And
That's how he won a Brownlow
that's
because
why
he,
he's
he
an
had an
avoid.
amazing football year, but an amazing football year never really represents in a Brownlow year. Look at Cripps last year. His super coach scores were that inconsistent, especially through the mid period, but he was still pulling 2, 3 votes for the Brownlow.
Yeah, but the difference is Cripps was playing ruck during those times because Pitnet was out and they didn't trust the con until late in the season. Anyway, let's move on to the under the radar pick.
Do you hear that siren? Because I do. That siren is saying, Houston, we have a problem. Dan Houston at 545.1k, averaged 99, and he was Mr. Consistent for most of the year. He will get you 95 plus most weeks, if not low 90s. He had a score of 40 last week. 40
Week.
last year, right? And he missed the following week with concussion. So he's got 1% ownership. Last year he had 40 odd percent ownership. He was Mr. Consistent. He was everyone's pod. Why is it this year when he's doing the same that he was doing last year at a cheaper price? We're seeing less ownership in him. He's a cheeky pod. I'd back him in for those scores again. Look out for him. He could be
Yep,
a difference maker for your team. As simple
yep.
as that.
I've gone Dan Houston as well. As Jack said, 545k defender. Best season by far last year. He only missed the one game, as Jack said, that was a concussion, and he went at a 99 average. He started off the season great with a low score of 883 and a high of 144. Then after the buys, we saw a few scores of 76, 62, the concussion 40, and 73. Um, in those games, looking at his heat maps, he seemed to play more of a wing role than that halfback role, which he likes and which we know he loves. If someone who has, sorry, he is someone who has a great ceiling and seems to be the consistent 90 to 105 scorer. He just needs to clean up those low scoring games, which we know now comes from his change of role. That happens from time to time. I think he can definitely go 105 plus, but wait and see, and hopefully he keeps those that halfback role. So, all right, that's all of our picks. Do you have anything to add, Jack, before I end the podcast here?
Um, Next week's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it's going to go for 4 hours because Jack has bloody
Oh,
Richmond
the
Tigers. So,
first segment's going to go for about 4 hours. The rest will
uh,
go for about 2 minutes.
all right. Well, with that, be prepared for next week. But just quickly, the Break Evens Supercoach League group, it's free to join. We have 77 people in there at the moment. We're trying to get over 100. So for those who want to join, you can check our Twitter. It's on there. But if you don't have us on Twitter and you only have us on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, our league code is 432856. So join. As I said, it's free. As many people as we can. Let's try and boost that up. Um, Also, this Saturday, I will be doing another episode. This one is on how to research players and what sites to use. So, again, it's another must watch. Make sure you tune into that because that's going to be massive. So, apart from that, let's go through the socials. So, don't forget Twitter at Breakevens Pod. You find us there. Please follow us on there. We're trying to hit 500 followers by season's end. I think we're very close to 300. I think we're 280, mid 280s, I think, at the moment. So, we're doing really well on there and on YouTube, the Break Evens. We're trying to hit 50 subscribers, so make sure you like and subscribe over there. It takes a second to subscribe. It's just a red button. Just click it. You don't have to watch our stuff every week.
I
Um,
mean, it'd be nice.
it would be great because we're trying to pump out as much content as possible. So if you could subscribe, that would be great. All right, Jack. Apart from that, mate, this was fun. We had some different opinions, but it looked like we selected a lot of similar players. So um, I'm super keen for next week because I'm just going to bag Richmond the whole time. But um,
I'm
that's it
sure.
for that's it for today's podcast. So thank you all for watching or listening on YouTube or Apple Podcasts. And until next